Hey everybody, just give me 1 second and we're going to get started. I'm just letting some more people join in before we start going through and doing any analysis. All right, Prax, welcome in. Paul, welcome in. Yeah, keyboard clicking. Yeah, I was typing. Aziz, welcome in. Anthony, Dante, what's up, what's up? All right, let's go ahead and get started here. First of all, welcome to this week's watch list review with Spartan Trades. Full disclaimer, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. All right. If you are new, then welcome in. Here's what we're going to do. Tonight, I'm going to be reviewing my top stock picks for tomorrow. I'm literally going to be talking to you about my entire plan. So I'm going to tell you everything that I have in mind for tomorrow's trading session. And it's important for you to realize that this is all that this is, right? It's just a preliminary plan. So it doesn't mean that the stocks have to move in the way that I think they will move. But it does mean that in the case that they do move the way that I think they will, I'm prepared to take a trade on them. A lot of trading, a lot of the money is made in the analysis. So you spend, hours going through the charts, and then the actual act of trading can take, maybe an hour max. Sometimes as little as 20, 30 minutes. But before we get into that, I want to mention some important stocks that have earnings this week. So I'm going to type some of them up here. Last week was big tech, but there are still some names that I definitely want to keep on radar for this week. So one of them being SQ, another one is ROKU, Roku, another one BKNG, BYND, PTON, Uber, SPCE, and of course there are more, but those are the ones that I'm really looking forward to the most, right? So my plan with those stocks is to trade them after the report, not really before the report, unless they're moving crazy or presenting a decent setup. But I did already go through these names, and I didn't really see a setup that I favored from a technical standpoint. So my plan with these right here is to just wait until after the report, and then utilize a gap strategy. So if you don't know a gap strategy, but you are a member of the Discord server, I actually posted a gap and go strategy that I use from the masterclass, and then that's located in the guides channel in the Discord server. So check that out if you have time, and if you are one of the ones that like the pre-market gap plays. Okay, so if you're ready for the watch list that I have lined up for tomorrow, hit the like button for me. I help you out with sharing my trading plan, and you help me out with a like. It sounds like a fair deal. Much, much appreciated. In no particular order, the first one that we're going to be watching for tomorrow is Tesla, TSLA. So I do most of my analysis on the daily chart time frame, and then I will work my way down into the smaller time frames. But the reason why I do my analysis on the daily is because I find that if you can trade with the trend, or if you can plan your trade with what the trend already is doing on the daily chart, then you increase your chances of being correct on the trade. So the stock is moving up currently, so I would like to trade it in the direction that it's currently moving in, which is up. It's been forming higher lows all the way up, so we kind of have a trend line that looks like this now. This is a bullish engulfing candlestick. So the body of this candle is totally engulfing the body of that candle, which signals a potential reversal here. It reclaimed the $700 whole number, which is something that, if you didn't know, whole numbers like to act as natural points of support and resistance in the market. So it's reclaiming that whole number. It's reclaimed this 50 EMA, which is this green dotted line. So it was treating as a resistance, resistance, resistance. Then support right here ultimately broke back below. So now now it's trying to get back up and over that price point again. And okay, I'm not done with this one yet. And there is a gap overhead. It's kind of minor, but it's from about 725 up to 732. That is relevant because gap areas act as also points of support and resistance. So this means that we have likely resistance around 725. If we're looking for a continuation play from here, we're just looking to take it long right over the high of day on Friday. So I'm going to move to the 5-minute chart time frame. That's going to be right here above this peak, right around 715. Actually, exactly at 715. So this is my plan for Tesla. It needs to hold 700 as a support. This is the sweet spot. I want to see it open up in this area. I want to see it open up under 715, but over 700, so that we can take a long position over 17 with a price target of 725 in mind. Once it gets to 725, if it gets to 725, then we need to reevaluate because we know that there's this gap here, right? That's what this gray box is. So we know that there's this gap here. So if it gets over 725, then we're looking at a potential gap fill play, and our next price target is going to be around 732 or so. If you looked at the economic calendar for this week, their motor vehicle sales are being reported tomorrow. So I think that that's kind of the catalyst for why stocks like Tesla and NIO ran up on Friday. I mean, it's new. It may be a case of buy the rumor, sell the news, but we will see what is put out. That being the fundamentals being pushed to the side from a technical standpoint, this chart looks really good for a continuation. It just needs to hold 700. Okay, so a couple of things: bullish engulfing candle on the daily, 1. Reclaim to the 50 EMA, that's 2. Reclaim the $700 whole number, that's 3. Gap overhead, that's 4. Motor vehicle sales, that's 5. Reasons why this is on the watch list for tomorrow. I really like the setup. I really like the stock. It needs to hold 700. Long idea over 715. That's my trading plan. Price target 725. Got it? Cool. The next one is going to be NIO. It's a different setup. I know that they're both EVs, right? And I try to not put the same sector on the same watch list. But NIO is one of the stocks that, so we were trying to trade this breakout, and it was like trading super choppy, right? Intraday. And I kept including it on the watch list because we were also looking at Tesla at that time. And so NIO it's called a sympathy play, right? It's a sympathy play to Tesla because they're both in the same sector. And I know that a lot of my members, or some of my members, may not want to trade Tesla contracts or want to trade Tesla in general, just given the kind of volatility that it has. So NIO is a good alternative, right? Nice move up again on Friday. We're not getting that bullish engulfing candlestick on the daily like we are with Tesla. But here's my breakdown for NIO. So it had support 3 times. It tested this $34 price point as support. Right? So 1, 2, 3 times, and then we started to see this downward trend line being formed, and this looked like a descending triangle, which is a bearish formation. It's not this is not actually a bullish formation. But what was occurring at this time was the 200 EMA was acting as support, right? And then we got a break of this downward trend line. And then so now, instead of having a low down here at 34, like we might be creating our first higher low since this drop, since this sell-off, which means that in the grand scheme of things for NEO, this may be a big reversal right here, where this moves up from here, right? Not in a straight line, obviously. I mean, stocks move in waves, but we have a higher low. So as long as it validates or continues to validate 36 as a support, and then we get another high above like 43, this may be on the path to recovery back up to these highs eventually. But that's kind of speaking long term. My plan for tomorrow is pretty much the same as my plan for Tesla, right? So this had an intraday bull flag formation. So there's your big flag, right? Your flag pull, and then your flag, the big pullback. And there's a few different ways to trade this pattern. You don't necessarily need to wait for this to break over the high to take a position on it. But my plan is going to be a break of 41. I like the 41 break because look back here. So if we just extended this resistance line all the way back, do you see how relevant 41 was as a support? So after hours there, after hours here, and then intraday right there. And so we know old support can become new resistance. So there is a possible trade if you wanted to take a long position over like 40.5 up to 41, sure. But just understand that 41 is going to be a likely level of resistance. So the safer entry is to probably take the trade over 41 with a price target of like 42 in mind, and then ultimately 43, right? That 43 level, remember if we go back to the daily, that's going to be these highs right here. And then 42 is where the 50 EMA is also located at. So if I am reviewing this for you, two different ways to trade it: long idea over 40.5, otherwise long idea over 41. It's up to you how you want to take the position. Price target of 42. You see why I chose 42, right? It's just the next point of resistance from where we're at, plus the 50 EMA on the daily. All right, the third one on the, if you're just joining in, first of all, where have you been? Second of all, we're talking about my trading plan for tomorrow. We've already talked about Tesla and NEO. The next one on the watch list for tomorrow is Netflix, NFLX. Very, very easy analysis here. So I just talked about in this stream how gap areas act as points, natural points of support and resistance. This is a good example, right? So this whole area is a gap where there's a disconnect from this candlestick down to, this wick down to this wick, right? No price action right there. And that's because of earnings, right? The big drop after earnings. So it has been consolidating within a range above a whole number, 500, and above the 200 EMA, which is that blue line that you see right there. So it's looking okay for a potential reversal from here because it's continuously validated 500 as a support. So from here, what we would want to see is a break of the of this wick, which puts us right at about 515 for a potential gap fill play. So something like 90% of gaps get filled in the market over time, and it doesn't have to happen all at once. I'm not saying that a break over 515 sends this all the way up to 545, but it's something that could happen over time. In fact, I don't think that this would be a gap fill all in one go if we got it, because the 50 EMA is still right here, and that's still relevant, right? So I think that if we got a push into this gap area, there could be a little bit of momentum that followed the stock into the gap. So a price target of like 520 or 522 or 525 would be something that I'm looking for. But definitely 527, where this 50 EMA is located, I would consider that to be a relevant point of resistance. So just something to keep an eye on. But this is going to be a gap fill play. So a long idea over 515 is what we're looking for, and You see how well that worked there on Friday as a resistance. So it needs to hold or needs to maintain 500 as a support and break over 515 for a potential partial gap fill. Easy analysis. I really don't care if this one, I don't care if it rejects 515 and comes down. I wouldn't be short biased on this because it's trading at the top side of the range. So the only way I would look at shorting Netflix is if it broke below 500, which it's not doing right now. Every time it's been down here, it's getting bought up. So yeah, I think it's more likely to break over 515 and give us a little bit of a gap fill. But there's always the chance that it does break down. The next one on the main chart watch list for tomorrow will be AAL. That is American Airlines. So we got a break of this downward trend line, and the chart is kind of messy actually, but what I like is that there is a flat top level of resistance right there at $22. So yes, there was a couple of, or there were or are a couple of wicks that pushed over 22, but all of these candles, well, most of them, with the exception of that one, are closing below $22, which is telling me that that's a level of resistance. So I just want to keep this on radar in case it decides to break the 22 level of resistance and move topside. Maybe a safer entry would be above like 22.2, so you could set alerts there as well. I think that would be extra confirmation that it's moving up. But over 22 is the level that we're looking for. All right. Quick review: Tesla, NEO, AAL, Netflix, all on the main chart watch list. We're going to talk about some side charts here, and while I'm doing that, feel free to post up anything in the chat section that you want me to review. I just ask that you don't mention penny stocks because usually there's not a lot of technical analysis to be done on those. And also ask that you try to give me like a few, maybe a sentence or two why the stock that you are mentioning has potential, and then some important support and resistance points. I just want to see that you're trying to do analysis and not just like giving me random call outs. Plus it creates better conversation. So there are two stocks for this week that make my side chart watch list other than all of the stocks that I mentioned earlier that have earnings. One of them is going to be Snapchat, SNAP. So I posted this on, I posted a lot of these on Twitter actually, but this is an inverted head and shoulders. So here's your left shoulder, there's your head, there's your right shoulder, and it's all being compressed under this $64 level of resistance. It's a side chart watch for us because it's not breaking $64. So I have alerts set at 64 because I'd like to know if it gets there, and then I have another alert set at 66. I would recommend setting those two alerts because I think that this has breakout potential if it can get trading to the top side of this resistance here. I mean, you see how relevant that $64 price point is. Just be careful that you don't get faked out on one of these wicks because it does have a habit of kind of breaking over, but then not maintaining the daily candle closing over 64. So that's what we're looking for. A daily candle to close over 64 because we haven't had it in the past, except for this area right here. But yep, so that's one of them for us. The next one is going to be Facebook. This is a post-earnings gap play, so much like Netflix, there is a large gap. The only difference is that this is a gap down to the bottom side instead of a gap overhead, right? So what we'll be looking for on Facebook, or where I have my alerts set on Facebook, is at 321, and then I have another one set at 320. I'm not sure why it's not displaying there, but it is set. So two alerts set, one below 321 and the other one below 320, because this is still a gap area that can potentially be filled. So my plan is, if the market's red, if the overall market's red, then this may be a decent short opportunity for me. So that way, you know, if I'm watching a bunch of stocks come down with SPY, for example, I at least have something that I could potentially take a trade on, a setup that I actually like to the short side to take a trade on. All right, so Snapchat over 64, Facebook under 320. Those are my 2 alerts that I have set. Paul's mentioning Walmart for a break of the 140 level of resistance. So, yeah, Walmart actually has a gap overhead as well, and what it's done has partially filled the gap, but not by much, only by like $1. So when it gapped down the first time, it dropped from like 144.5 all the way down to 141, leaving us that, and then even lower than that, right? But leaving us a gap there between 141 and 144.5. So recently, it has been recovering and maintaining the 200 EMA as a support, but right now, I don't see a play here that has my interest until it gets back up into this gap area, which would mean it needs to break over 141 or 142. Over that, though, yeah, I mean, the price target of like 140, 144 or 145 is definitely possible. It actually showed some relative strength against the overall market not too long ago, too. It's just tough. It's tough trying to time Walmart as a day trader because it does have the potential to make big moves, but for the most part, most of the days it just chops around or trades very choppy. So it'll look like it's moving up, right? But it's doing so in a very gradual fashion, which some people enjoy that type of trade, type of movement, but it's not my style. So I would just wait. Me personally, I'm going to wait until it breaks over 142 to take a position on Walmart for day trade at least. That's my breakdown on that. Thoughts on solar stocks. So if you have earnings this week, and many have earnings in May, Biden supports solar, and they've all been standing in a dead range. Yeah, for a month or two now. Solar got sold off pretty hard, right? If we look at something like SPWR, that has earnings on the 5th. I don't have a lot of thoughts on solar. I think that this sell-off is something that was needed for solar because there was like a lot of hype around it, right? And it might have been a case of buy the rumor, sell the news. I mean, we knew who was running for president and what he stood for, and so that's kind of part of the reason why we had like solar run and then the pot stocks run. This sell-off, though, yeah, I think it's needed. I don't really have any thoughts on solar because you said it yourself that a few names have earnings this week, and so with earnings, it's kind of pointless to do technical analysis because there's the fundamental factors, like whatever comes out in the earnings report is likely going to heavily influence the price of the stock, either up or down, right? So I would just wait to see. There's going to be sector leaders and there's going to be sympathy plays for these types of things. I would just wait to see, what the general sentiment is for the solar stocks before taking a position on them. But yeah, so you may get a few stocks where you have larger gap ups or larger gap downs, and then you can implement a gap strategy following the earnings reports. I know that's probably not the answer you want to hear, but you asked my thoughts, and that's what I was thinking about solar. So Prax said, thanks as always. Yeah, thank you for being here as always. Prax is probably the one person that I know that's here every single week. I'm sure there are more of you, but Prax never misses. What do I think of ENPH? It's a solar stock. Okay, let's see. ENPH. So you're saying that it's a solar stock and it's right on its support at the moment, has been trading in the same range since 3-1. Since 3-1. Yeah, I see the support. Okay, so here's my analysis for ENPH. This is a gap down play following earnings. So whatever was put out, the investors didn't like it because the stock price came down. And you're correct, it is trading at support, which would be around the $140 price point. A stock that's trading above the 200 EMA on the daily is still considered to be in an uptrend. So I would be careful of buying. I know it's at support, but I would be careful buying at the support this time because there are other factors than just the technicals that are working into the price of the stock right now. And that's going to be your earnings, right? So I would wait to see what it does from here to see if it either continues to fall, because the last thing that you want to do is it's called catching a falling knife. The last thing that you want to do is try to buy into something that's currently falling without confirmation. So I would wait to see, if I was trading this, wait to see what it does at this 200 EMA. If it validates the 200 EMA as a support and gives us a bounce, and then some sort of minor rally, I think I would, so like maybe a break over 150 would look good. That would kind of be more confirmation that it's moving to the top side. But this being a gap play over 153 would be extra confirmation that it's moving back up to the top side. So I would be cautious. If it's falling like this because of earnings, don't try to catch a falling knife. Let it do its thing. I would maybe even give it room down to like 130 and see if it can hold support there. And if that's the case and it starts reversing, your extra confirmation for a buy would probably be over like 150 or the 153 area, that general area, as it's moving back up. But yeah, if it breaks 130, I definitely wouldn't have any interest in buying this, at least not right now. A lot of these solar stocks are kind of like at the same, they're showing the same pattern, like this major run up, right? Like gradual run up and then sell off and consolidate. Have I heard of or seen anything about EDR, Endeavor Group? Yeah, so that's UFC. They own the UFC and other sports leagues, and UFC's been popping in the recent years. I was wondering your thoughts. I actually read an article about UFC, and like I don't remember. Don't quote me on the numbers, but because I'm probably going to be wrong. But I believe the UFC was purchased for like 1.8 million or something, and then is now worth like 11 or more. That's, I mean, again, don't quote me on the numbers, but it's growing is what I'm getting at. So I have seen the EDR. Let me see. I want to pull up the chart. Yeah, so it's like a new, I've seen this and I've heard about it. I don't have any thoughts on this because I'm not much of a fundamental trader, meaning that I trade based on the charts and not so much on the news. So I think it's important to understand the news because that's going to tell you like why the stock is moving. But price action is ultimately going to dictate where the stock moves. So let me tell you this. The reason why I'm a technical trader primarily is because as a day trader, if you are, let's say like news drops on a stock and you're watching the stock, like you're going to see that stock price fluctuate very quickly, probably before you even get a chance to see the news. You're going to see larger volume come in. You're going to see the stock either move big up or big down, depending on what the news is. And it's going to happen very fast before you even have a chance to like click buy or click sell. That's like algorithmic trading. People literally have programs written to read news headlines and scan them for certain keywords. And then when that news comes in or that article comes in, then they buy or sell the stock based on whatever keywords were put out. So for that reason, I think it's important to understand news and how it affects the stock price or how it's moving the stock price. But trading based off of news, I would rather just trade off the chart, because the chart's going to tell you first before you even see the news. Now, don't get that confused with investing and long-term investing. By all means, you want to invest in good, profitable companies that have major releases coming out or are constantly making new products. So in that scenario, yes, the fundamentals are very important, but I'm just talking about trading. So yeah, EDR, back to my original, the original question. I don't have many thoughts on EDR, but it's moving up. Right? So there's just, and from a technical standpoint, there's just not a lot to go off of. Support would be 23.6, resistance at 29, right? It's actually a decent move there. What percentage is that? 15%. Yeah. Someone within the Discord server posted EDR, posted about Dana White. I guess he made like an Instagram post. They posted that, and I went and read up about it at that time. I like UFC. I watch the fights sometimes, depending on who's fighting. All right, let's see. What else are you guys asking about? Buckles and Company and thought AMD. Okay, so AMD's one. I really like trading this stock at times, but it's been a pain here lately. So you're asking, Buckles and Company's asking, AMD. It has hit the 8150 level of support once during the day, but it's also broken through that level in after hours. So do we wait on a confirmation for a reversal? Yeah, absolutely. Look at the daily chart. What's it doing, right? So it's breaking down from the breakout. When we traded this, we were looking for a break over $84. This was actually something that I mentioned last week, I believe. Or no, I didn't go last. So it was, I believe I posted it on Twitter. I have to double check. Anyways, AMD had broken over the $84 level of resistance. So from here, this old resistance, right? Resistance should have validated as support on the way down, and it didn't. So this means that it's come back down into this range right here. So you're asking, do we wait for confirmation for a reversal or a continuation play down to the 78.5 level of support? At this point, I would just go with the trend, my friend. The trend is your friend. The trend is always your friend, and this trend right now is down. Big volume on the way down, as a matter of fact. Look at the 5-minute chart, right? Earnings pushed it up, and then it just sold off, right? Completely filled this gap that it had formed, completely filled the gap, came down to support, and has even broken below that and pushed down lower. I think that this right here, this move down from like 89 to 81, that is pretty dramatic. So I would be cautious and not get faked out on a reversal. But if it reverses, this is what I would be looking for, a short the rally type of play. 84 is going to validate as resistance again, and if that's the case and it rejects off 84, you could take it short for the move back down to probably the 200 EMA area. So you're correct, right? Support around 79 or so. Yeah, percentage-wise, I mean, consider the risk to reward. What does this move down? 8.7%. Is that right? 8.7%. Yeah. what do I think of JD? So Jaden's asked me, what do I think of JD appropriately? I don't really have a lot of thoughts on JD. So I do own, I do have like investing portfolios and long-term portfolios. I'm not a big fan of investing in Chinese stocks. That's just me personally. So that's one thing. That's going to be my, you asked me what I think about JD. That's one thing that I think about JD. The other thing is that it's broken below, like it's making lower highs all the way down and has broken below the 200 EMA. And looks like right here it tried to push up and reclaim it and then got rejected again. So I would wait to see what it does at around this 200 EMA. This is why I do my analysis on the daily chart, because if the stock is trading above the 200 EMA, it's likely in a healthy uptrend. If it's trading above the 200 and above the 50 EMA, it's really kind of on a healthy uptrend. But when it breaks below both of those, you should, if you're investing in it, you should just be prepared for the stock to be coming down. That typically means it's in its downtrend. So I would wait to see. From a day trading standpoint, I don't see anything here as far as the setup goes. But if you're talking about investing, I would wait to see what it does. All right, if it can get over 80 or maybe 82 or 84, and start reversing this kind of major downtrend here that it's been on, then you might be okay if you're buying it. Otherwise, yeah, it's below the 200. I'd probably look for a new low. So low, lower low, all the way down. I would expect the same thing to happen here. Juice mentioning Disney. Yeah, let's talk about that one. So somebody asked about Disney in a stream not too long ago, and I said that I didn't like the setup because it had right here. So it was like right in this area. I was like, because it has a 50-50 chance of doing something here. It's either going to break down and not validate the 50 EMA as a support, or it's going to break out and validate the 50 EMA as a support. And in this case, it broke down, but it really didn't sell off a whole lot. So Juice is mentioning, Disney over 186. It has potential. Earnings is coming up, so that may be something to keep an eye on, because you have a chance when earnings is coming up, like the stocks have a chance to run in anticipation of earnings. But I think I like Disney better over 190 rather than 186 for a day trade. But that doesn't mean that its trade is not possible. Certainly, right? It is moving back up. It's kind of like creeping back up here. It is moving back up. It has reclaimed the 50 EMA. Just understand that 190, like above 186 Juice, above 186, 190 is going to be your next that is your major level of resistance from where it's at. At some point, though, this chart looks good. At some point, it is in an uptrend, and if it can validate this 50 EMA right here as a support and not break down from this area, I think there's another breakout move possible. But I don't know that occurs prior to earnings, because they had a lot of parks closed, right? All right, let's do two more, and then I'm gonna call it a night. And by the way, we will be trading live this week more than what we normally do. So for those of you that kind of follow along with what's going on in my life right now, I'm getting into real estate, and that is causing me to move across the country. So I'm moving from basically the West Coast over to the East Coast. I will be taking a week off trading while I'm completing that move. But because I'm taking a week off, this week I want to trade live with you and the team more. So I'm going to try to basically, I just want to compensate for me taking that week off. I don't like taking off work that much, but it is necessary. So NVIDIA, this is tough one. It's a tough one. Big run up, big beautiful run up into the highs, and has since kind of pulled back and started chopping around. I don't see a play here until this breaks back over $620 to the top side. It almost looks like it's forming a pennant pattern or a flag pattern. So it would look like this, right? There's your downtrend trend line. It really doesn't matter what the bottom one looks like, but this could be a big bull flag forming. So I would just be looking for a break of this downward trend line because we now have our first rally. So it only takes 2 points to connect a trend line. So you have the high connected to the first rally and then the rejection down. So the next move from here, if we're looking for a continuation play up, should look something like that, where it breaks the trend line and moves topside. Does that occur at 620? I don't know, but from where it's currently trading at, that's what I would be looking for. The last one that we were going to do is CRWD. Choppy in this area, but it is holding over the 50 EMA. Actually, this chart is really messy. There's a couple of things going on here though. One, it broke the downward trend line after bouncing off the 200, which is good. That's a good sign. And then it reclaimed the 50 EMA, which is also a good sign. And then it pulled back and tested the whole number at 200 right here as a support, and also at the same time validated the 50 EMA as a support. So right now it's trading again back at the 50 and then just over the 200. I would be looking for it to continue to validate 200 as a support. In fact, if you're a swing trader, this may be looking like a decent dip entry, provided that the overall market doesn't really pull back or give you a big sell-off. But yeah, this is holding over 200 nicely. It's holding over the 50 EMA nicely. There is resistance around, let's just say, the $230 area. So that's kind of what your range would look like, right? Support at 200, resistance around 220, 230. Above that, big resistance at 250. I don't see anything here for a day trade, but maybe a swing trade. Cool. Thank you guys all for your time, and girls, thank you all for your time. If you've enjoyed the stream, press the like button for me. That helps me out. And I will see you all tomorrow. I'm going to have the updated trigger levels and the updated watch list posted in the morning. So a quick recap. We will be watching Tesla, NEO, AAL, Netflix, Snapchat, Facebook, and then, of course, anything else that has morning news. EV is probably going to be our focus, though, because of the sales reports. All right, so I will see you all in the morning. Take care. Thanks for your time. Let's make some money. New month, new money.